The summer solstice is on July 20th, at least in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, it'll be the winter solstice. What do we need to know about the energies around these things? Geopolitically, things seem very tense right now. We have Israel and Iran bombing each other. We have the United States, whose president seems to be saying that they're going to get involved, but we don't really know. I'll read on that on my other channel. And during the course of some private readings over the last week, it seems like people's levels of anxiety have just really risen. And so, does that have anything to do with what's going on astrologically, spiritually around the summer solstice? And I think it does. So I do think, the energy builds towards the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, and then it sort of starts to release. In the southern hemisphere, it's a little bit different, but there aren't any real geopolitical tensions that the world is globally thinking about in the southern hemisphere at the moment. So astrologically, Mars does quincux Neptune on the summer solstice. This is kind of where we can sort of kind of imagine how things are going to play out, but we can't quite put it all together. So it's like a doom scroll of what we think is going to happen or a daydream of what we think is going to happen. But the truth is, we don't really know what's going to happen and we can't quite envision what's going to happen. And that can cause a lot of anxiety as well. So, it's sort of this energy of, everything's going to work out, but oof. And then 5 minutes later, it's like, ugh, I don't know if it's going to work out. And then 5 minutes later, it's like, oh, I think it's all going to work out. So let's just take some looks and see what we can do to maybe lessen our anxiety, or at least understand it a little bit better. What do we need to know about the summer solstice in particular? And I think we should read about what we need to know about anxiety and sleeplessness, restlessness, whatever you want to call it, around the summer solstice. If you're experiencing anxiety, sleeplessness, restlessness, if your feet are twitchy, for example, these are all kind of normal things for this type of energy in my experience. So, if you're having a hard time sleeping because you feel like your feet are twitchy, I don't know if you guys get that, but this happens to me around this type of energy when things just feel really unsettled. So what do we need to know? We'll pull some oracle cards here in a bit, but what do we need to know about the summer solstice, the energies around the summer solstice? What are we supposed to know? I see the Seven of Swords in the scrying bowl. The Seven of Swords, of course, is about deceit, deception, misdirection, misinterpretation. And I think the big one here for the Seven of Swords is misinterpretation. I don't think we're going to know what reality is for a while, um, at least in the geopolitical realm. Now, on an individual level, we will know that. So, yeah, it's a very much this Three of Swords type energy of agony, betrayal, uh, wanting to scream out loud. Um, it's it's an uncomfortable feeling. I'm not sure how long it'll last, but we'll see. I think most of this is driven by the geopolitical tensions. Um, and that can bleed over into anything. If you're not sleeping well, that can bleed into work, that can bleed into family, that can bleed into things that we enjoy. All of a sudden, not finding any joy in the world. And a lot of it's just because we're tired, we're exhausted, we're overwhelmed, we're um, unsure of the future. But, like the Buddha says, anxiety is essentially living in the future rather than living in the moment. Now, that's probably right, but that doesn't mean it's easy to do, right? So, what do we need to know about the summer solstice? Then we'll take a specific look at anxiety. So I think a lot of us are feeling really anxious. People sometimes ask me how I stay so calm, and the truth is, I don't. I have anxiety too. I've had it for years. I think you just um, learn to hide it better. Maybe you learn to manage it a little bit better. Uh, Maybe you accept it a little bit more. I mean, we'll look at the summer solstice, but anxiety, I think the trick is just to say you're anxious and not to ask why. Okay, so I think it's important that we know things are gonna balance out. They just are. The universe has this way of making sure things don't go too far in this direction before they get pulled back. Now, the truth is that we're never exactly in balance, right? We're always kind of doing this, but we're closer to balanced most of the time than we are unbalanced. And this is a very unbalanced time. We've been in that energy for probably around 6 months, something like that. So it's understandable that we're tired, we're exhausted, we're feeling anxious. It's hard to find, I think for a lot of people, it's really hard to find things to enjoy during this time period. It's like, the go-tos of reading a book uh, cause anxiety when before they would cause joy. Finding a good show to watch on TV is almost feels like a task rather than something to look forward to. It's a very bizarre energy. Yeah, I mean, we get the devil card along with justice. And this is in the environment around. So the environment around is just, it's full of toxicity. It's full of mis and disinformation, misdirections. I mean, this is sort of akin to the Seven of Swords, which I've seen in the scrying bowl. Um, so, I mean, it's no wonder we all feel a little bit uh, just like off our game slightly, maybe I'm the only one, but I don't think so. I think this is kind of a universal thing. We also get the lovers card. So this is unlikely partnerships. So, we'll have to pull some more cards to know exactly what that means, but that's three major arcanas off the top. So the energy really is building towards the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. In the winter hemisphere, or in the winter hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, it's the winter solstice, but the idea still kind of holds. It's like it's a build towards something, right? And what comes after, I think, is some relief. But we'll keep pulling some cards and seeing. Yeah, we get the Queen of Wands. This is kind of, you know, someone full of passion, very strong, intelligent, wise, and that's in the environment around. So, it's those energies that we're going to need to pull on to kind of get through this is those energies. And we get the star card at the center of the reading. This is all about protection, wish upon a star type energy, hoping, praying. These are the energies that will help kind of lessen the tension that's kind of currently there. Um, been pulling the star card a lot. So I think, you know, whether you're religious or spiritual, an atheist, agnostic, a believer, it doesn't really matter in the sense that prayer is for yourself. So, um, I don't think you necessarily need to believe anything to send out a hopeful message for the world, for you. Um, whatever makes you feel better, I think is what the star card allows. It's that energy. It's energy that makes you feel better, makes you feel more protected, more safe. And in fact, you are more protected and more safe. And we get the world card as well. This is the end of the cycle. So in the northern hemisphere, this is the end of spring, this beginning of summer. In the southern hemisphere, it's the end of autumn and the beginning of winter. And that's very much on our minds. We also have in the lower left here the Five of Pentacles, which is a feeling of being left out in the cold, a feeling of poverty, a feeling of loss. But I think more importantly, it's a feeling of not having a voice. In particular, when it comes to the geopolitical situations, we really are voiceless, right? People are making decisions that are way above our level. Yes, we can call our representatives and we should do that and completely support those ideas. But on some level, we do feel kind of helpless. It's kind of like we're on this planet spinning around the sun, and it kind of feels like it's out of control and there's not much we can do about it. But I think the bigger point is that everything's going to be fine because we have the star card here. It's a matter of choosing to believe that, which I think will bring some calmness. I think it's reality, whether we choose to believe it or not. Um, or we can live in this Five of Pentacles energy where it feels hopeless. And I think, it's a tough. I think this is why, it'll all work out. Ugh, it's not going to work out. It'll all work out, the star card. I don't know if it's going to work out. The Five of Pentacles. That's really what's going on here. It's this push and pull of indecisive energies because things really are out of our control. But, in a more philosophical point of view, things have always been out of our control, right? You know, uh, I think we'll see some surprises, some bombshells and surprises with the Page of Cups. I think I think we might be surprised on how things work out. I don't know if it'll be as doom and gloom as some of us envision. I don't think so. Um, but again, it really feels out of our control. So we're going to go from doom and gloom to, oh, maybe we're surprised because somebody does something, somewhat sane. Now, I think it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle of probably we're still confused in a few weeks, but um, it does feel a little bit chaotic. And we get the King of Swords, relying on logic and really thinking things through. And most likely, what's going to happen isn't some far off tale from what we envision. It's probably somewhat similar to what we envision. It's probably not that far off. So I do think justice will kind of balance things out. It'll bring things. Now, sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. That's the way it works. But no, we do have the star card to pull on as a collective, and we have our ability to reason with ourselves and uh, help ourselves get through this kind of, I think it's going to be about 3 or 4 days of ickiness, maybe a little bit more. We don't have a seat at the table. We feel helpless, but the truth is, we've never had a seat at the table. We've always been like the idea of being in control has always been an illusion. But we do have protection, and we might find comfort in some unlikely partnerships. So, for example, if you've never done yoga, maybe you'll find yourself wanting to do yoga. If you've never listened to like healing music on YouTube, you can just search healing music. Sometimes just putting that on the house while you're doing dishes can do really good things. I find it helps me. Um, But we are in the environment around, there's all this toxicity. It's just what it is. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. We're just waiting for the bombshell, the surprise. Now, the bombshell might actually be nothing happens, but we're just waiting for it to come. Uh, Meanwhile, there's this really fiery energy around, so everybody's tensions are running high, and it's concerning. But we do get the world card too. So this is the end of a cycle. Things are going to start to improve after the solstice. And that might not be directly after the solstice. It might take a few weeks, just kind of like when, we have an eclipse or Mercury goes retrograde. It might take a while to feel. But, if one plan doesn't work, try another. Be creative, think your way through these things. Um, the seed has been planted that things are going to be really chaotic globally. Uh, whether that's reality, that's a different story. So just because the seed's been planted doesn't mean that it's actually reality. So I think, there's a lot of reasons to be anxious, to be nervous around this particular solstice. I also think there's a lot of reasons to have hope that things are going to get better, because I do think that the solstice is kind of the climax of the craziness, and then things start to kind of dissipate and relax a little. Now, that doesn't make it easy. It's just kind of the way it is. So, okay, so what do we need to know about? A lot of people have been telling me they're anxious, and I've been kind of feeling it too. It's kind of there's just an undercurrent of uneasiness, I would say. Now, um, when something really bad is about to happen, generally I have like kind of a severe anxiety around it. I kind of can sense it happening. Um, you know, for example, around 9/11, a couple days before that, I couldn't figure out why I was so panicky, and then it kind of all made sense. Um, I didn't exactly see what was going to happen, but I felt something was going to happen. I don't feel that right now. I don't feel like something big is going to happen right now. So, um, I could be wrong, but I hope I'm correct. Let's see, what do we need to know about anxiety? Anxiety definitely lies to us. I've said that before. Somebody told me that years ago, and it's very true. Anxiety can convince you of many different things that just aren't true. So I think the other thing is, see the King of Swords and the scramble. I think it's about knowledge. I think here what's coming through is just acknowledging anxiety, is probably the way to go. Just acknowledge you're anxious. Don't maybe ask why. Because oftentimes there's not a real issue why. Although, a lot of it has to do with this, the abuse of power by world leaders. A lot of it feels like the world is spinning completely out of control with the Knight of Swords. We're just sitting here waiting for some sort of tower moment with destruction. And, we're wondering what's going to happen to the world. Are we heading towards something really bad? And we're feeling out of control and wounded in battle with the Five of Swords. So, I think those cards popped out for a reason. That's kind of sums up how I think a lot of us are feeling. Now, whether that's reality or not is a different story. What we feel isn't always reality. So again, it's like this, the best way I can describe the energies, it's like we're going to go from this, I think it's going to be okay to, I don't know if it's going to be okay to, I think it's going to be okay. It's a really, really hard energy. And it's mostly caused by the geopolitical situation. And I don't think it's coincidental that it's corresponding around the summer solstice. I think the summer solstice will be the peak of it, but um, we'll have to see. I hope that's right. So what do we need to know about anxiety, anxiousness, sleeplessness, despair? What do we need to know? The image of a younger person holding a dog like really close, you know, taking comfort in the people or pets around us, I think is a good thing. You know, anxiety ebbs and flows, just like the wheel of fortune. It can turn against us, it can turn for us. We can go from really anxious to not anxious in a matter of minutes, and we can go from not anxious to really anxious in a matter of minutes. So that's part of the reason why I think anxiety is so annoying and hard to cope with, because it's like it can go from one extreme to the other just like that. It's like you're walking down the street and all of a sudden you feel a little twitch of pain maybe in your arm, and it's like, oh my goodness, is there something seriously wrong with me? And in a normal situation when the level of the planet's energy isn't quite so high, you'd probably shake it off and not think too much about it, and you wouldn't go down that rabbit hole of anxiety. But there's just so much energy right now that that's likely to happen. So no, you're not alone. A lot of people are feeling anxious. I know that doesn't necessarily make it better, but it is true. Anxiety is also where our passions come from. Now, this is a harder lesson to learn, but it is true. Some of the most creative things that we can come up with, they come from a place of pain, from anxiety, from a life experience that perhaps was unpleasant at the time, but now allows us to tell a story more eloquently, perhaps allows us to create a piece of art that can depict something um, that really can't be put into words. So it has its point or its purpose. We get the Queen of Wands to go along with the King of Wands. I think that's just kind of the universe's message of saying, we're not alone in this feeling. So when we have anxiety, other people are having anxiety too. It comes in waves, like the Wheel of Fortune. It comes in waves and it goes. Now, there's a difference between having casual anxiety and then needing medical attention because we're having severe anxiety. So I'm not a doctor. So by all means, if you think you need medical attention, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I know several doctors over the years, and it's surprising how many people go to the ER for panic attacks because they don't know what they are or they think there's something worse. So doctors are used to that. There's no reason to be embarrassed by it. Um, the Queen of Pentacles, it's you know, anxiety helps us appreciate the times that we're not anxious, and it helps us appreciate how to nurture and foster those times to try to make them the majority of our time rather than the anxious times. There's a workbook I saw years ago about working through anxiety, something along those lines. And one of the exercises was to write down all the times you're anxious. And the point of it is that you begin to realize that you really aren't anxious most of the day. It just feels that way because anxiety lies. Um, it can cause illusions and delusions. It can make us think things are real that aren't real. It can make us think that things that are real aren't real as well. So, it can give us a feeling of having a severe health condition when it's just anxiety. It can also convince us things aren't wrong when things are wrong. So we have to be a little bit careful. Anxiety is there for a reason. Here's the Seven of Swords. This deception, anxiety lies. It's a deception, it's a misdirection, it's a way of tricking the brain into focusing on inward because what is outward is maybe a bit too much. So I think, evolutionary speaking, that's kind of what's going on there. Um, so anxiety can also make us feel like hiding, which the Seven of Swords talks about that too, that being stealth and doing things kind of behind people's backs or, without telling people. It can give us that feeling of hiding. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, being okay with yourself for doing that. Only you have to be okay with your decisions. It can make it feel like, the world is going to end or the world's going to be great. Like it can make it feel like it's this binary choice of, everything's just going to, or everything's going to be fine. It's all messed up. No, it's okay. It makes it feel like there's this binary choice, but the truth of the matter is the truth is always somewhere in between, right? We get the Hierophant as well. Definitely, I think, turning to some spiritual practices can help with anxiety. Um, Even if it's something simple like lighting a candle, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Just something that gives an action for you to do. Maybe that action is doing your dishes. Maybe that action is folding the laundry, or, you know, for me, oftentimes that action is helping my neighbor with her flower bed because they, how you pick the dead flowers off so more blooms come. My neighbor's like 97, so actually, maybe she's 98 now, but that's a soothing thing to do for me. So I think we all have to find our soothing things. Maybe it's putting on some aromatherapy, some lavender, or drinking some tea, or, the process of just making the tea, just a process of doing something, I think can calm us down. And what that something is, I think we all have to figure out for ourselves. Um, I know for me, doing the dishes and deadheading flowers, those seem to be the things that really work for me when I'm super anxious. Um, I'm not exactly sure why. Also, water really works well for me. So, taking showers, baths, swimming if you have a swimming pool, these things I think can be helpful too. Um, and anxiety is going to pass. It will. It's just a wave. It'll feel really intense and it'll pass. It's not going to hurt you. Now again, seek medical attention if you think it is. I'm not a doctor, it's just a tarot reading, but anxiety can feel like it's the end of the world, but the truth is once that part's over, then we're not anxious anymore. It's like it'll peak and then it'll be done. And it's a lot like the death card in the sense of it's the end of the cycle and then something starts anew. We go through the anxiety, it ends, and then something new starts. And we might go through this cycle more than once in a day, but that's kind of just the way it works. And I do think things are going to calm down. It can make us feel very defensive and worried about ourselves, the Seven of Pentacles, or Seven of Wands, and the Knight of Pentacles. It's sending us a message. The message is most likely just let's focus on ourselves for right now. Maybe that's all we're capable of doing in the moment. So, whatever that means for you. So, okay. So, um, I think a lot of us are feeling anxious, so I decided to throw some cards on that. Um, and then just like I think I want to use a different Oracle deck. So this is the Ancestors and Angels Oracle deck. Okay, just two cards. What do we need to know to close this up? What do we need to know about the summer solstice, anxiety, everything we've talked about, the global tensions? What do we need to know? Seems right. We get the drum, dream and journey. So that's a lot like what I was saying with this energy of the summer solstice is we can kind of see the future, but we can't make it real. Like we can't like it's like the dream that doesn't have an ending. It's like we can kind of see where we're going, but we don't know what the ending is. So I think that's what that's about. And then the druid, hold the space. Make sure that you're making space for growth, and think about these things in that terms. And that's really hard to do, and that's almost somewhat mean to say. But it is true. Out of pain and stuff, we do become wiser. That's not necessarily something we want to become, but that's what it does to us. So anyhow, I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another video soon.